Captain Rain sat quietly, his back against the warm stone wall of the pit. Smoke still rose from the dead body of the lurker. Its black blood hissed on the rocks. The dragon had returned to the shadows, hidden, but not gone. Rain looked down at the wrist device. The short message still echoed in his head. The test is not just survival, it's understanding. Understanding what? He tapped the device again, hoping for more. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the screen blinked to life. The weak hologram of the same human soldier appeared, flickering and broken. The man's face was pale. His voice was tired. If you're seeing this, then you've survived the first encounter. That means you're strong. Maybe stronger than I was. Rain leaned closer, heart pounding. I'm Lieutenant Brannick, Earth Defense. I was captured 3 years ago. They threw me in this pit, like they did with many others. The hologram coughed, then continued. But I learned something. The dragon is not what it looks like. It's not just a beast. It's a machine, part animal, part tech. Built by the Zircons, long ago, but it wasn't made to kill. Rain's eyes narrowed. A machine. The dragon's sharp movements, its strange silence. It all made sense now. It wasn't acting like a wild animal. It was controlled, or once had been. Brannick's message continued. The dragon was designed to protect something, to test humans. This pit, it's not just for execution. It's a trial, a way to find someone worthy. For what? I don't know, but I think the Zircons are afraid. They're testing humans to find weakness or strength. Rain looked around the pit again. He saw the burn marks, the patterns in the walls. This wasn't just a random cage. It was a place built for observation. Cameras were hidden behind stones. Devices clicked softly in the walls. He was being watched. Brannick's voice dropped lower. I made it 15 days. I studied the dragon. I think it's remembering things. Maybe. It used to protect humans. Maybe deep down, it still wants to. The hologram started to glitch. Brannick's face distorted. I couldn't escape, but maybe you can. If you earn its trust. There's more. BZZZT. The message cut out. Dead again. Rain sat in silence. The dragon hadn't attacked since the fight. It stayed near the far wall, staring at him from the shadows. Not growling. Just waiting. He stood slowly and walked to the carvings again. He ran his hand over the images. Dragons standing beside humans. Weapons. Ships. Stars. And then a final image. A dragon burning a city, with Zircons standing above it, holding chains. Rain understood now. The Zircons had taken control of the dragons. Used them. Twisted them. And maybe the one in this pit was the last of its kind. Suddenly, a deep noise echoed through the ground. RUMMMBL. The floor shook. Rain stepped back as the rocks behind him split open. A hidden chamber revealed itself, buried beneath the pit. He stared at it, shocked. Inside was a small room, dark and full of metal shelves, broken tools and old bones. He stepped in carefully. There on the far wall was a control panel, dead, dusty, but still complete. Above it, a symbol glowed faintly. Unity code. Locked. Rain placed his hand near the panel. Nothing happened. But then, the dragon roared again. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was a signal. It stepped forward, slowly toward the chamber. Its massive body cast a long shadow over Rain. He didn't move. The dragon reached out with one claw and pressed it against the wall beside the panel. BEE. The control panel came to life. The screen lit up. Symbols flashed. The Unity code was now unlocked. Rain stared in disbelief. The dragon helped him. He tapped the screen. A new message appeared. Initiate trial phase 2. Before he could answer, a siren rang out above. Loud, shrill, metallic. From the top of the pit, giant floodlights turned on. Rain shielded his eyes. A voice came from hidden speakers. The human has survived longer than expected. Trial will now be accelerated. Rain's blood ran cold. The walls started to shift. Metal parts moved. The pit was changing shape. He looked at the dragon. It looked back at him, its red eyes calm, but alert. They were no longer enemies, but they were now both part of something much bigger. A game. A test. And the next part was going to be worse. Skarn's voice was quiet. How do we fight that? He asked, looking at the swirling force above them. How do we fight something that has no shape, no form? The ancient's eyes burned brighter. You fight it with your mind, General, with your will. But Skarn hesitated. What if our will is not enough? The ancient gave a slight, sad smile. Then you will lose, but only if you refuse to change. Back in the heart of space, Rayan took a deep breath. His mind raced. Change. That was the key. The Zarnak had never learned to change. They had never learned to adapt. They had relied on their power, their weapons, their technology. But humans were different. Humans had always survived by evolving, by learning, by finding solutions in the most unexpected ways. He turned to his crew. Listen to me. We've always been the underdogs. We've always fought with everything we have. And we've won. But this isn't a fight of weapons. It's a fight of choice. We have to choose what we become next. We have to evolve, not just as soldiers, but as humans. V09's voice echoed in his ear. Captain, the anomaly is responding to our energy. It knows we are united. It is testing us. Rayan clenched his fists. Then let it test us. Let it test what makes us human. The fleet moved in closer, forming a perfect circle around the anomaly. The silence in space was deafening. There were no explosions, no gunfire, just the deep, rumbling hum of the energy that pulsed from the dark force before them. And then, something began to shift. The anomaly started to bend. It wasn't much at first, just a slight ripple in the void. But it grew. The darkness began to fold in on itself, revealing glimmers of light. Small at first, but then brighter. Rayan stared at the screen, his breath caught in his throat. This is it, he whispered. Back on Zarnak Prime, Skarn felt something stir inside him. He couldn't explain it, but he knew it wasn't just the ancients that had changed his heart. It was something in his blood. Something human. Survival. It had always been about survival. The ancient stepped closer, his voice barely a whisper in the air. The humans are doing it. They are evolving. You are not too late, General. If you change, you may yet survive. Skarn looked up at the sky. The force, the anomaly, it wasn't a destruction anymore. It was a rebirth. A choice. As the human fleet neared the heart of the anomaly, Rayan's voice rang out. All ships, activate resonance mode. Channel everything we have. Channel our hearts, our minds, our will into it. One by one, each human ship activated its resonance systems. The energy of the fleet merged, focused. It wasn't just a matter of weapons anymore. It was a matter of unity. Now, Rayan shouted. The fleet's energy surged. A beam of pure light erupted from Ghostfire 1, followed by every ship in the fleet. Together, they sent their collective will into the anomaly. And the anomaly reacted. It trembled. For the first time, it bent. Skarn's eyes widened as he watched the stars above. The humans, they were doing something no one thought was possible. The force was changing. The ancients looked on, their faces unreadable. Then the voice spoke again. You have chosen. A wave of light erupted from the heart of the anomaly. It enveloped the entire fleet, engulfing them in pure, radiant energy. For a moment, there was nothing, just the feeling of being alive. And then the energy receded, and the anomaly was gone. Rayan opened his eyes. The fleet was intact. The darkness had lifted. The stars around them shone brightly once more. He glanced around at his crew. They were all alive. They had done it. The humans had chosen. And they had evolved. Back on Earth, the president stood before the United Nations, watching as the stars above slowly returned to normal. "We did it," he whispered. The world had been saved. But it wasn't just a victory of weapons. It was a victory of humanity itself. A victory of choice, of survival, of adaptation. And from this day forward, humanity would never be the same. The end. The stars looked the same, calm, quiet, but something had changed. Earth was silent. No public speeches, no official warnings, no news channels, nothing. It felt like the humans had disappeared. But they hadn't. They were preparing. Inside a hidden bunker under the Atlantic Ocean, top military minds and scientists of Earth were working without sleep. Massive screens showed alien fleet movements, communication logs, and hundreds of red-marked targets. In the center of the room, the president of Earth stood still. She watched a countdown on the wall. 6 days, 14 hours, 22 minutes. "Status of Whisper Protocol?" she asked. A general replied. "Active. Phase 1 complete. Signal has reached every major empire." She nodded. "Begin Phase 2. On a Zarnak battleship near Mars, Admiral Kor sat in his command chair. He had received no updates from Earth or from General Skarn. "Humans are cowards," one officer said. But before Kor could reply, the lights in the ship flickered. A strange symbol appeared on every screen. It was a circle of stars, and in the center, a human eye. Then, the ship's communication system activated on its own. A voice spoke, not shouting, just a whisper. "You shouldn't have done that." Then everything went black. All systems shut down for 12 seconds. When the power returned, the ship's star map had changed. A new zone was marked red. They had never seen that zone before, and Earth was at the center of it. In the shadows of Saturn's rings, a small Zarnak recon ship moved slowly. Its job was to spy on Earth and report military activity. The pilot leaned forward as his scanner beeped. "I see something," he whispered. A small object was floating ahead. It looked like a satellite. Old, rusty. The pilot laughed. "Humans leave trash everywhere." He moved closer. Then the satellite's eye opened. A red light scanned the ship. "Target identified," the machine said. A single bolt of blue energy shot out, silent and clean. The Zarnak ship vanished. No explosion, no sound, just gone. Far away on Earth's moon base, inside the secret AI chamber, V09 was fully awake now. Its voice echoed in the room, speaking to human commanders. Data received. Zarnak weakness identified. Captain Rayan stood beside the AI, wearing his battle armor. "Are the sleeper units ready?" he asked. V09 responded, confirmed. 31 Black Ops teams deployed across 17 alien systems. Rayan nodded. "Let them sleep no more." In the outer sectors of the galaxy, strange things started happening. Zarnak fuel stations exploded from the inside. A mining colony reported seeing ghosts, black-armored humans walking through walls. One alien captain was found inside his own ship's engine, with no sign of how he got there. Whispers began spreading in alien markets and war rooms. The humans are not attacking. They are hunting. Meanwhile, General Skarn sat in his palace on the Zarnak homeworld. He watched the reports with growing fear. Fleet 7, lost. Spy station on Titan, destroyed. 5 admirals, missing. He slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. Bring me the human database." An officer handed him a file. Skarn opened it. There were thousands of names. But at the top, one photo blinked. Captain D. Rayan. The same man who smiled at him during the peace meeting. The same man now leading something called Project Ghostfire. "What is Project Ghostfire?" Skarn shouted. The officer swallowed nervously. It was a human experiment. Cancelled years ago. Too dangerous. Skarn leaned forward. They cancelled it. The officer looked away. They said they did. Across the galaxy, in dark rooms, aliens played the same mysterious message again and again. You shouldn't have done that. It came in different languages, in different voices, sometimes male, sometimes female. No one could trace it. No one could block it. Even when ships jumped to other galaxies, the message followed. It was not a message. It was a warning. On a quiet colony world, 2 alien children were playing near the forest. They found something shiny in the grass. It was a human badge. The older child picked it up. Earth. Suddenly, they heard footsteps behind them. They turned. A human soldier stood there in black armor. He knelt and gently took the badge. He didn't say anything. He just pointed to the sky. The children looked up. High above, 3 massive human ships were slowly entering orbit. They were not here to destroy. Not yet. They were here to show, to remind the galaxy. Humans had rules. But they had limits too. And someone had just crossed them. Rain's heart raced as he pressed forward, desperate for a final blow. He knew there was one weak spot. The heart. He didn't hesitate. With all his strength, Rain lunged forward, pushing the spear into the dragon's chest. The creature let out a final guttural roar before collapsing to the ground with a heavy crash. The room fell silent. Rain fell to his knees, exhaustion washing over him. He had done it. He had survived. But as the creature's body disintegrated into smoke and dust, something else appeared in the air. A hologram of the alien symbols, flashing brightly. Congratulations, you have completed the trial. You are the first to survive the final test. Rain looked around, confused. But then the voice spoke again, this time softer, almost human. The pit was never meant to kill. It was meant to find someone worthy, someone who could unlock the secrets of the Zircons. Rain's eyes widened. What did that mean? The hologram faded, leaving only the echo of the voice. And in the distance, Rain saw something else. A door, finally opening. It was time to leave, but this was only the beginning. Rain stood up slowly, his legs still weak from the battle. The dust in the air began to settle, but the tension in the room remained thick. The hologram had faded, leaving only the echo of the Zircon voice ringing in his ears. Worthy, unlock the secrets of the Zircons. Rain didn't understand. What did it mean? He had survived the pit. He had defeated the dragon. But the trial wasn't just about survival. It was something more, something deeper. The chamber was silent now, the eerie glow of the symbols on the walls dimming. But Rain's attention was drawn to the door. It had finally opened, large, imposing, and waiting for him. For a moment, Rain stood still, unsure. Was he truly the first? Had he really unlocked the secret of the Zircon trial? He couldn't know for sure, but there was only one way to find out. With a deep breath, he walked toward the door. The moment his hand touched the cold metal surface, a surge of energy ran through him. The door slid open with a quiet hiss, revealing the vast room beyond. A room unlike anything Rain had ever seen. The walls were lined with strange, glowing technology, advanced machinery that hummed softly in the background. It was more than just a room. It was a library, a place of knowledge, an archive of the Zircon's greatest secrets. Rain stepped inside, his eyes wide with awe. This wasn't just a test. It was a gateway to understanding the Zircon civilization, their history, their technology, and perhaps the key to saving Earth. But before he could take another step, the voice echoed again, this time clearer than ever. You have unlocked the door to knowledge. But knowledge comes with a price. Rain paused, his heart pounding. The voice had changed. It was no longer just a test. It was a warning. A Zarnak officer appeared. What is it, human? Rayan's voice was calm, but his words carried weight. You've made a mistake, General Skarn. You think this is a fight. But it's not. This is about survival. And we will not survive if we fight each other. Skarn's face twisted with anger. We do not fear you, human. Rayan's eyes darkened. You should. And then the anomaly moved. It wasn't just a shift in space. It was a shift in reality. The stars around it began to bend. The fabric of space itself stretched. Rayan's heart pounded in his chest. This was not a war. It was an awakening. Space was not just empty anymore. It had become something alive. The anomaly, that strange force, bent the stars around it. A ripple moved through the fabric of reality itself. No one understood it, but everyone felt it. Rayan stood at the command deck of Ghostfire 1, watching the display screen. The anomaly's presence was growing. It wasn't just an object. It was a force, a living, breathing power. We've never seen anything like this, V09 said, its voice almost unrecognizable, filled with fear. It's as if the universe itself is bending to its will. Rayan's fingers tightened around the controls. He had dealt with alien threats, with Zarnak warships, and even Black Sun. But this was different. This was something beyond understanding. We need to act, Rayan said, his voice sharp. If we don't, it will consume everything. Our planets, our people, all of us. The human fleet stood ready, waiting for orders. But what could they do against something like this? Suddenly, a communication signal blinked on Rayan's console. General Skarn. Rayan asked, voice cold. The screen flickered to life. Skarn's face appeared, twisted with frustration and disbelief. You don't understand, human, Skarn growled. We can't fight it. We failed. Rayan's gaze hardened. So what do you suggest? Skarn's eyes burned with anger. I don't suggest anything. I'm telling you. This is beyond us. Even the Zarnak cannot stand against this force. You and your people have no idea what you're up against. Rayan paused. Then why are you still here? Skarn looked at him, his face full of defeat. Because if we die together. If you want to survive, you need to join us. The ancients, they have no mercy. They will destroy everything. The screen cut out. Rayan took a deep breath. It was clear now. The Zarnak were broken. The humans had been right all along. The enemy was never the Zarnak. It was the force that was coming. And it wasn't just destroying fleets. It was destroying the very laws of nature. On the Zarnak homeworld, the ancient figure stood in silence. Around him, other beings. Tall, faceless, their bodies shifting in the air like living shadows. Watched. They will come, the ancient said softly. The humans will come. A voice echoed in the room. And they will fight. The ancient nodded. Yes, but they will not fight for victory. They will fight for survival. And survival is all that matters. Back on Earth, the president stood at the central command center. The message from Rayan had just arrived. It was simple, clear. We are not alone in this fight. The president looked around the room, at the leaders of every nation. The Zarnak have failed. But we are still here. We still have a chance. A general stepped forward, his face stern. What do you mean, a chance? We have to learn from them, the president said. The ancients are not invincible. The Zarnak are not the real enemy. The real enemy is beyond everything we know. A pause filled the room. Then how do we fight it? The general asked. By not fighting it at all, the president said. On the command deck of Ghostfire 1, Rayan turned to his crew. Prepare for the unknown. We do not fight this with weapons. We fight it with understanding. But how? One of his officers asked. It's not human. It's not even Zarnak. It's something older, Rayan finished. Something that knows everything about fear. About chaos. A message blinked on the screen, this time from the ancients. Join us. It was short, simple, but the weight of the words felt like a hammer to their minds. Rayan turned to his crew. This is the moment. We either join them or we face our end. V09 spoke softly, almost as if in warning. The ancients do not trust easily. If we join them, we may lose what makes us human. The pit was changing. Walls twisted and moved, grinding loudly like giant gears turning underground. New doors opened in the stone, revealing glowing red lights and smoke. The ground shook as sharp pillars rose up, forming a new arena inside the old one. Captain Rain stood still, watching it all happen. Beside him, the dragon moved slowly, growling low, not in anger, but in warning. Above, the Zircons watched. Their deep voices echoed through speakers. Trial Phase 2, begin. Rain stepped back. He didn't know what was coming next, but it wouldn't be good. He looked at the dragon again. We're in this together now, he said softly. Suddenly, the floor in the center of the pit opened. From the smoke, another monster appeared, bigger than the lurker, and even more deadly. This one walked on two legs like a man, but its body was covered in thick, black armor. Long arms hung down to the ground, and claws as long as swords scraped the stone as it walked. Its face had no eyes, only a smooth mask. Its mouth split sideways, revealing razor-sharp teeth. Rain felt his stomach drop. It was a hunter-class war beast. He had seen videos of these things during the Earth-Zircon War. They were built to kill soldiers, fast, smart, and impossible to stop. The dragon growled louder now. It took a defensive stance, wings spreading wide. Fire lit up inside its throat. The beast turned its head toward Rain, then toward the dragon. It chose the dragon first. Whoosh! The hunter charged forward with terrifying speed. The dragon leaped to meet it, claws slamming into armor. A wave of heat exploded from the impact. Rain was thrown back against the wall. He got up fast and ran behind a large stone. From there, he could see the fight. Fire against steel, claws against claws. The dragon was strong, but the hunter was faster. It moved like lightning, dodging flames and striking hard. Rain looked around desperately. He needed to help. If the dragon lost, the beast would come for him next. Then he saw something. One of the metal shelves in the chamber had old weapons. Most were broken, but one looked intact. A small plasma spear. Its power core flickered weakly, but it still had some charge. Rain grabbed it, testing the grip. Light enough to throw, sharp enough to kill, if he hit the right spot. He ran out into the open. The hunter slammed the dragon to the ground. Fire burst from its mouth, but missed. The beast raised its claw, aiming for the dragon's throat. Hey! Rain shouted. The hunter turned. Rain threw the spear. ZAP. The glowing weapon flew straight and stabbed deep into the beast's shoulder. It screamed in pain, stumbling back. The dragon didn't waste the chance. It rolled over, tail whipping the beast's legs out from under it. Then it pounced. Crack! Fire exploded in all directions. The hunter screamed once more, and then fell silent. Dead. Smoke filled the air. The pit was quiet again. Rain dropped to his knees, breathing hard. His arms ached. His chest felt like it might explode. The dragon limped toward him. It had burns on its body and cuts on its wings, but its eyes were calm. Rain looked up at it. "You okay?" he asked, not expecting an answer. The dragon leaned down and gently bumped its head against his shoulder. A strange bond had formed, not with words, but with survival. Then the wrist device blinked again. A new message. Phase 3. Escape begins. Rain stood quickly. The walls began to shift once more. A section of the arena lifted up, revealing a tunnel, dark and narrow, but open. The speakers crackled again. Let the final test begin. If the human escapes, he lives. If he fails, the pit will become his grave. Rain looked at the dragon. The tunnel was too small for both of them. It was meant for him alone. "No," he whispered. "I'm not leaving you here." But the dragon stepped back, looking at him with quiet eyes. It let out one final low roar, deep and soft, almost like a goodbye. Then it turned and walked back into the fire-lit shadows. Rain stood frozen for a moment, heart heavy. Then he ran into the tunnel, the darkness swallowing him. He didn't know where it led. But he knew this. He would find a way to return. He would not leave the dragon behind. Not after everything they had faced together. The Zarnak Empire had never known fear. They had destroyed planets, crushed rebellions, and ruled star systems with fire and power. But now, they were afraid. Afraid of humans, afraid of the shadows, and most of all, afraid of what they could not see. But fear turns to anger, and anger needs action. General Skarn stood before his war council. "Enough waiting," he growled. "We attack Earth directly. We show them we are not afraid." "But General," one advisor said, "they took out our best fleets without firing a single shot." Skarn slammed his hand on the table. "Then we send something they cannot stop." He opened a secret file. "Activate Project Black Sun." The room went silent. "But, sir," one commander whispered, "Black Sun was banned. Even we don't fully understand its effects." "Then it's perfect," Skarn said. "Humans think they know war. Let's show them something older, something darker." Across the galaxy, deep in a forgotten system, Zarnak engineers woke up a massive ancient weapon. Black Sun. It wasn't a bomb. It wasn't a ship. It was something worse. A giant machine that consumed light, energy, and even gravity. It turned suns into dead stars. It collapsed time in pockets. It was chaos. It had no mind, no emotion, only hunger. The Zarnak loaded it into a silent carrier, aimed it toward Earth, and launched. Back on Earth, Captain Rayan and the AI V-09 detected the launch within minutes. "Unknown object heading toward Sol system," V-09 announced. "Power signature. Unstable. Non-logical. Ancient tech." Rayan frowned. "What is it?" V-09 hesitated. "Not sure. It doesn't follow science." Rayan narrowed his eyes. "Then we don't fight it with science." He pressed a red button. "All shadow units. Code gray. Time to go loud." High above Earth, 12 black human ships uncloaked. Each one was shaped like a blade. Sharp, quiet, deadly. They spread out in space like a net. Waiting. Watching. Scanning. The object approached. It didn't move fast, but the space around it bent like rubber. Stars near it dimmed. Satellites started blinking. Rayan watched from Ghostfire 1. "We hit it hard. No warnings. No talk." The human fleet opened fire. Plasma beams, ion cannons, quantum disruptors. All weapons hit the object. Nothing happened. The object absorbed the energy. Then it released a wave of darkness. Not explosion. Just silence. 3 human ships vanished. Rayan held onto the edge of his seat. V-09. What was that? Unknown. It eats reality. Back at the moon base, scientists struggled to understand. "This is not Zarnak tech," one said. "It's older, maybe pre-galactic, maybe not even from our universe." They looked at the screen. The object kept coming. No weapons seemed to work. Then maybe, someone whispered, "We don't use weapons." Captain Rayan stood alone in the black chamber of Ghostfire 1. He stared at a locked box. It was old, banned. Even Earth had agreed never to use it, but inside it was a device. The Mirror Core. Created during Earth's worst war, a weapon designed not to destroy, but to reflect. To send any force, energy, or event back where it came from. Rayan picked up the device. We swore we'd never use this. He looked at Lena's photo again. Then he activated it. Just this once. As the object neared Earth, it prepared to release another pulse of darkness. But this time, something floated in front of it. A small device. Spinning. Silent. The object fired. The wave of nothing came fast. But the mirror core lit up. It absorbed the wave, held it, then reversed it, and sent it back. The object shook. Cracks appeared in its surface. It made no sound, but space around it screamed. Then it began folding in on itself, like a shadow eating its own tail. And then, gone. Just like that. No trace. No warning. Back on Zarnak Prime, General Skarn received the message. Black Sun failed. He dropped the datapad. He stared at the stars. They stopped it, he whispered. An officer behind him said, "Sir, we have no more tricks." Skarn turned slowly. "Then we must do what we've never done." The officer blinked. "Which is?" Skarn growled. "We ask for help." Far from Earth, in a hidden system of the galaxy, a tall figure sat in silence. Not Zarnak. Not human. Something older. Darker. Watching. Waiting. His screen lit up with a message from the Zarnak general. "We need your kind." The figure smiled. Finally, the tunnel was narrow. Dark. The air felt stale, thick with dust. Captain Rain's heart raced as he ran, his boots echoing off the stone walls. The tunnel seemed to stretch on forever, with no sign of an exit. The further he went, the colder it got. Every step felt heavier, as though the walls themselves were pressing down on him. The light from the pit had disappeared, leaving only the weak glow from the wrist device. It flickered, barely lighting the way. Behind him, the sounds of the dragon's final roar still echoed in his mind. The dragon had sacrificed itself. It had let him escape. And now, Rain was on his own. The tunnel twisted and turned, leading deeper into the earth. It wasn't natural. No cave had this many sharp corners. The walls were smooth, almost too smooth, as if they were carved by a machine. And then he saw it. A faint light up ahead. Not natural light, but something else. He quickened his pace. But as he got closer, something changed. The walls began to shift again. The floor rumbled beneath his feet. A low, mechanical hum filled the tunnel. Trap. Rain stopped instantly. His eyes scanned the walls. The tunnel ahead was now filled with thin, sharp wires, hidden, almost invisible to the naked eye. They glowed faintly in the dark, ready to slice through anyone who wasn't careful. He stepped back. Sweat trickled down his forehead as he crouched, looking at the wires. Think. The device on his wrist blinked again. Another message appeared, flashing on the tiny screen. Survival requires adaptability. Use what you have. Rain's eyes darted around. He needed to think quickly. His weapons were useless here. No guns, no grenades, only the knife at his side and the plasma spear he had used earlier. But he wasn't giving up. He took a deep breath and reached down, pulling a thin piece of metal from the ground. The sharp rock beneath him had cracked, leaving just enough to grab onto. He twisted it carefully into a makeshift tool. Then he took the knife and cut a small hole in the side of the tunnel wall. The sound of scraping stone echoed around him. He reached inside, his hand trembling. There, he found a small trigger hidden in the wall. The wires went dead. Rain exhaled a relieved breath. For now, he was safe. But the feeling of victory was short-lived. The tunnel ahead grew even darker, and the walls shifted again. This time, the ground beneath his feet buckled. He barely had time to jump before sharp spikes shot out of the floor, some of them missing him by inches. "Dame," Rain muttered. His heart raced again, but he kept moving. The messages kept coming. "Your actions will determine your fate. Proceed carefully." He could hear the hum of machinery behind the walls, the sound of gears grinding. The pit wasn't done with him yet. It was pushing him to the limit, testing his every move. Rain's breath quickened as the tunnel twisted again. He was getting closer to something. He could feel it. He had to. He rounded another corner and suddenly stopped. Before him stood a massive stone door, taller than any man, thick with age. It looked ancient, but the design was sharp and clean, almost too perfect. The door was covered in alien symbols, glowing faintly. Rain approached cautiously, reaching out to touch it. Wham! The ground beneath him collapsed. The door wasn't just a door. It was a trap. A massive stone slab fell from above, closing off the tunnel behind him. Crack! The rocks shifted, and a huge mechanical arm shot out from the wall, reaching for him. It was fast, its fingers ending in razor-sharp blades. Rain had only seconds to react. He rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the blades. He could feel the cold, sharp metal just inches from his face. The arm withdrew and came at him again. This time, he wasn't going to escape by running. Think. The message on the wrist device flashed again. Adapt or perish. Rain grabbed a loose piece of rock and hurled it at the mechanical arm. The impact caused a spark, and the arm hesitated. Now, he ran forward, ducking under the arm's swing, and darted into the space where the arm had just been. The walls shifted once again, and Rain pushed through them, barely avoiding the next trap. He reached the stone door. There was no time to hesitate. The alien symbols on it began to pulse, and the glow brightened. It was opening. Slowly, but opening. Rain grabbed the edge of the door and pulled with all his strength. The sound of grinding stone filled the air as the door finally gave way, just enough for him to squeeze through. He pushed through the gap and fell onto the cold floor of the next chamber. The tunnel was over. The trial had almost finished. For now. But as Rain looked up, the last message from the wrist device appeared. You have reached the final phase. Your real test begins now.